All right, so a lot has happened this week for investors. First, Elon just made Twitter $8 a month if you want that elusive blue check mark. Now, he did make fun of people saying that that's less than the cost of a cup of coffee from Starbucks, and that's true, but not really. Because how much money do you think you'd need invested in your stock portfolio to make you $8 a month or $96 a year? Here's how this math works out. You take $96 and divide that by your expected investment return. So let's just say you bought a safe dividend stock that paid you 4% per year. So you would take that and divide it into 96 by moving the decimal over 2 to the left to get 0.04, and the result is $2,400. That means you need almost $2,500 working for you every single year, making you at least 4% per year to justify $8 a month. And that's a really interesting way to think about the opportunity cost of recurring expenses, even if they're as little as $8 a month. Now, the second thing that happened this week is on Wednesday, our central bankman, Papa Chairman Jerome Powell, increased what's called the federal funds rate for the 6th time this year. Remember, the federal fund rate is the cost for banks to borrow money from each other. It's not the cost for us as consumers to borrow money, but that still affects what's called the prime interest rate, and that's the cost for our interest rate for things like credit cards, home loans, student loans, auto loans, and of course savings accounts. Now, a really interesting question is, what is the consumer or the prime rate based on? Here's how it works. Always remember, whatever the federal fund rate is, which right now is at 3.75%, the prime rate is 3% on top of that, which gives us today's prime rate of roughly 6.75%. Now, when it comes to credit card rates, those are obviously higher because they're what's called non-collateralized, which means if we don't pay our credit card debt, those companies don't get to see our money. So there's extra risk, which is why they give us extra percentage points. That's why credit card rates are usually 8% or more on top of prime rates, which is how we know prime, 6.75 plus 8, gives us 14.75% average credit card APY, obviously. Now, when it comes to real estate though, that's been hit the hardest because right now, the average interest rate on a 30-year mortgage has gone up to 7.2%, which is insane. But the math also works out. The federal fund rate plus prime rate plus people's credit scores are not always perfect, and you get 7.2%, which sounds like it's really high, but you have to remember that when inflation was this bad roughly 40 years ago, their federal fund rate reached as high as almost 20% in 1981. So we don't really have it that bad, is what we're told. But it's not a fair comparison because houses back then also cost like 10 raspberries, and credit scores weren't invented until 1989. Before credit scores, banks relied on payment history, word of mouth, and home visits, which I don't think would work nowadays. Hey, I know I have a credit score of like 550 and I don't qualify, but my friends say I'm clean. Come by. My dramatic reenactment of the 80s of probably how it went. But anyway, that's how interest rates work, and that was a big part of the conversation this week. But there's also a lot more that goes into it and how it all affects the markets and investors. So I have a lot of new updates and some juicy new data to share with you. So with that said, let's get right into it. Hi, my name is Andrei Jikh. Hope you're doing well. Come for the finance and stay for the data. So first I'll share with you what happened this week. We'll talk about the stock market, and then I'll give you a crypto update at the end of the video. But first I want to share something really interesting with you. Credit to Andrew Cartwright for sharing this with me. You can find his YouTube channel right here. But this is a graph that shows the personal savings rate in the US and compares it against credit card outstanding debt. So this tells the Fed that the difference between what people are saving, which is very little, and what people are spending, which is a lot, is not helping inflation. Of course, neither do record-breaking corporate oil profits, but we don't have to talk about that. Now, all this means that the Fed has two options to lower inflation. Number one, they can either raise the rates, or number two, they can start regulating the banks to give out less loans. Now, so far, what we're mostly seeing are these rate hikes, but I suspect very soon we could see banks tightening their lending requirements, especially when it comes to buying a house. Now, for now though, Papa Powell just snapped his fingers and pulled a Thanos on us because he increased the federal funds rate by 0.75%. And we are now in the final stretches of this year because we only have one more rate increase, and that's when the Fed will reach their final target rate of between 4.25 and 4.75%. And hopefully then we'll start to see inflation come down. Now, as far as savers go, we are getting hosed the most in this economy because our savings accounts are not paying us a prime rate of 6.75% per year. We're not even making the federal fund rate of 3.75%. If anything, the average savings account interest rate is yielding anywhere between 2.5 and 3.25%. You ever wonder how come our money earns less interest than the lowest benchmark? You probably never wondered that, but if you have, it's because of this chart right here. This shows commercial bank deposits, which are almost at an all-time high. This means that banks have very little financial incentive to pay us more on our money because we're like, here bank, have all my money. And they're like, here's a penny in interest payments. Buy yourself something nice. Anyway, here's how you can use all of this information about interest rates to tie it all together and see if the stock market is overvalued or undervalued. I want to show you some really cool economic data, but first a quick word from today's sponsor. All right, so as the Fed raises rates, it makes it that much more expensive to borrow money to buy land. But I think I found the solution to our millennial problem where we can now own land outside the metaverse thanks to today's sponsor, Established Titles. Based on a historic Scottish custom, landowners are referred to as lairds, or lords and ladies in English. It is therefore why I have become Lord Andrei Jikh. If you've ever dreamt of owning land, you now can because they allow people to buy as little as 1 square foot of dedicated land so you can call yourself a lord or lady. They also plant a tree with every order, and they work with global charities One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future to help support the global reforestation efforts. It's a fun way to help support the beautiful woodlands of Scotland while making an amazing last-minute gift for the holidays. I even have my own certificate of proclamation now that I'm Lord Andrei Jikh, and your certificate will feature a unique plot number with which you can use to identify the exact location of your land. Title Packs gives you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, and an official certificate with a crest. The first 200 people purchasing a title pack using my link down below will be effectively next to my own plot within a few minutes of walking distance. But the best part is that Established Titles is still running their Black Friday sale, and if you use the code Andre10, you'll get an additional 10% off. All you have to do is go to establishedtitles.com/Andre10 to get your gifts and help support the channel, and your new title can be used on credit cards, plane tickets, and to even say you own land outside the metaverse. Thank you, Established Titles, for sponsoring this portion of the video. Now let's get back to it. Now here's a really interesting question. If the Fed increases our interest rates, does the stock market go up or does it go down? Because if we can notice a pattern, we might be able to use it to our advantage. So I looked around and I found some data from USA Today which compares all of those rate hikes and how the market reacted. It's really interesting. See if you notice a pattern. The first rate hike was on March 16th. That increased the Fed rate by 0.5%, and on that day, the stock market went up 2.2%. The second increase was on May 4th. Another 0.5%, and the market was up again 3%. Now the third interest rate increase was on June 15th. The Fed raised the rates for the first time by a massive 0.75%, and on that day, the stock market went up again 1.5%. The fourth interest rate increase happened on July 27th, another massive 0.75% rate increase, and that day, the stock market went up again 2.6%. So it seems like a pattern is forming here. Every time the Fed raises rates, that's what the stock market wants to see. Now the fifth rate increase was September 21st for another 0.75% increase, and on that day, the stock market went down. It actually went down 1.7%. There goes that. And the last time the Fed increased the rates was Wednesday last week, another 0.75%, and the stock market went down 2.5%. Did you notice a pattern? I didn't either. That's because there is no pattern. Have you learned nothing? It is impossible to try to time and predict the market in the short term because it moves like a casino in unpredictable ways. In fact, on some of the days when the stock market went up after the rate increase, the next day it went down and gave up all of those gains. This was true after the second rate increase, and it was true after the third rate increase. The market went down despite being up literally the day before. And that's because there is no pattern other than one. The Fed can giveth, and sometimes the Fed taketh away, sometimes in unpredictable ways. But what if there was a way to use all of this information to look at the market as a whole and see if it's undervalued or overvalued? So here's what I found. All right, so there's a couple ways to tell if the stock market is overvalued or undervalued. It's gonna get pretty complicated, but I'm gonna tie everything together and explain everything. But according to currentmarketvaluation.com, there are 6 core ways to tell if the stock market is cheap or if it's expensive. And the first way to tell is something called the yield curve. This measures bond interest rates on the 10-year treasuries and the 3-year treasuries. And what it looks for is if interest rates on the short-term bonds, like the 3-year year is higher than the long-term interest rates on the 10-year, that's when you get a signal that the economy is going to go into a recession. Now, we've already had that happen so far, which means that according to this metric, the stock market is overvalued. Now, the second metric is called the Buffett indicator, and this looks at the GDP and compares it against the stock market's total value. Now, the historical average is at roughly 128%. But right now, we're at 163%. So is that good or bad? According to Warren Buffett, he says that anything above 200% and we're playing with fire, which is obviously bad. Now, according to this metric, it says the stock market is so far fairly valued. Now, the third way to tell if the stock market is cheap or expensive is something called the cyclically adjusted price to earnings ratio, or CAPE. This is the number I'm talking about in your brokerages, the PE ratio, except there's one big difference because this number shows us the current PE ratio, but CAPE looks at the last 10-year average of those numbers, which isn't shown to us in our brokerages. Now, the historical average for the stock market has been roughly 20, but right now our CAPE number is closer to 28.5. So according to this CAPE metric, the stock market is overvalued. Fourth way to tell if the stock market's cheap or expensive is based on the federal funds rate, which we just talked about at the beginning of the video. Now, it says that when interest rates are low, typically the stock market is high. But because our interest rates are high right now, the stock market is not so high. According to this metric, our stock market is fairly valued. The fifth way to tell is something called margin debt, and this measures investor greed, because the more people take on loans to invest money they don't have, the more risky and expensive the stock market is. But according to this metric, people aren't really doing that right now, which means the stock market is undervalued. Now, the sixth and final way is something called the S&P 500 reversion model, which sounds like it's the most complicated, but it is by far the easiest and my favorite one to explain, because all it does is it says that the stock market will eventually return to its historical average trend line. And the farther away it gets from that average, the more expensive the market is. Eventually, though, it'll come back down. But right now, we're about 30% above our historical average trend line, which according to this metric, because we're under one standard deviation, says that we're actually fairly valued. So in total, out of those 6 indicators, 2 show us that we're overvalued, 3 that we're fairly valued, and 1 that we are undervalued. So what this means is that Mercury is now in retrograde and Capricorn dragons will do well next year. Now, it means no one has any idea what the stock market is going to do in the short term, except for one person, and that person is Jim Cramer. Because where the market goes, Mr. Cramer knows, but in reversos, because somebody by the name of Unusual Whales actually created an ETF that tracks all of Mr. Cramer's investment recommendations, and if you had invested $1,000 today, you'd be left with $707 following those recommendations. But if you did the exact opposite and you shorted those stocks, today you'd be left with $1,243, which shows that in the short term, the stock market is all noise, it's a casino, and it's unpredictable. But we can say with some degree of confidence that 20 years from now, dollar cost averaging into the market means that you'll have more money 20 years from now than you do today. Now, as far as crypto goes, it is still extremely correlated to the stock market and to macro trends based on interest rates. So as long as interest rates keep going up, Bitcoin will have a hard time reaching above $20,000. It'll have to wait until what's called the Fed pivot, which is when the Fed either slows down rate increases or starts to reverse towards zero again. Either way, the goal is not to time it. The goal for me is to dollar cost average. Now, for those of you who are Voyager customers who might have lost some Bitcoin like me, here was an important email that got sent out last week, which reads, solicitation materials regarding voting on the Second Amendment Joint Plan of Reorganization. And once you open the email, make sure you cross-reference the account balance with what you have inside of your app, and if the 2 amounts match up, then go ahead and vote on the plan. Personally, I voted yes to accept the plan of the FTX buyout because I think it's an extremely lucky circumstance to get anything back at all. Most of the time, these lawsuits last for years and years, and the only real winners are the lawyers. And if we stay to fight them longer, they're gonna end up with more of our money and we'll end up with less. So I think this is the best shot we've got, and that's why I voted yes. But the next question is a little confusing because it asks if you want to opt in to releasing any third parties and the Voyager executive team from any wrongdoing in future lawsuits. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but that was my limited understanding and interpretation of that question. Personally, I don't have an opinion on that. I just want my Bitcoin back. As always, have a wonderful rest of your day. Smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't already don't forget to grab up to $250 worth of free Bitcoin right here. Please don't forget to move it offline onto a hardware wallet into cold storage. The link is down below where you can do that, and then grab your free stocks. Links are also down below where you can track them automatically with a spreadsheet link down below in my Patreon. Love you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you back here on Monday, Friday, sometimes a Wednesday. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.